Thanks for tuning in. Yes, I don't often feature calls from Muslims, but I've got one here from Ahmad. He's calling in, I think last week or the week before when Armin was on, who has got his own YouTube channel. I haven't checked it out. I don't really know much about him. I know that he's a deconverted Muslim, and I mean, based on this call, he seems to be quite knowledgeable on the development of the Koran. He seems to have a lot of knowledge of early documents, etc. So he was the good person to counter the claims of Ahmad, who was calling in. And I've got very few comments to make along the way because I know so little about the development of the Koran, but I feel like I know more now, and I actually feel like going out and doing a bit of research, because all I've got at home, I've got this book on Islam which I bought, and there's so little in it about how the Quran was actually written and over what period and how we know, and all those type of, all that type of thing that scholars should really be putting in their books about Islam. So, okay, let's go and have a listen.
We cannot say that the Bible is a true text from God, or the Quran is a true text from God, if Muhammad does not exist or Jesus does not exist.
I agree.
Excuse me on that.
I agree with you on that.
As a Muslim, I differentiate all other human, a person who try to think. I differentiate between my religious belief and what things I can prove by science. So for me,
okay. So yeah, did you hear that? And I mean, give him credit. At least he's honest, and a lot of Christians say that as well. They've got their spiritual beliefs on the one side, which are faith-based positions. They don't expect to have to prove those. They just accept them as a truth based on what they think is divine revelation or whatever. And then they've got science. And if there are scientific claims, then they expect those to be properly validated through evidence. But for their own religious beliefs, they've got a different standard. Okay, let's keep going.
As a Muslim, I believe in Muhammad, Jesus, Moses, Jacob. I believe in all those prophets because I'm a Muslim. But his history is different matter. History need an evidence to prove that this person exists as a person. So although I believe in Moses and on Jesus as a prophet, and I believe in his existence as a believer, but I cannot argue with you from the history point of view that this person exists because I don't have any evidence. So Armin said, the existence of Muhammad come 200 years after the time that claimed that Muhammad existed.
That's not what I said.
I actually like what he said there. He said that he doesn't have any historical evidence for the existence of Jesus, which is fantastically honest. I really like it. What's he going to say about Muhammad?
No, that's not what I said.
That's what you said?
Okay. No. I said the stories that were the words and stories attributed to Muhammad. Okay, so those are from Sunnah and Sirah that the latest versions that we have. The only versions that we have available of is close to 200 years after the death of Muhammad. We have earlier evidence that shows that there was somebody that unite the Arabs, like much earlier evidence, right? That shows that there was a character, which we don't know what his name was, that managed to unite Arabs and lead certain armies against, the Byzantine Empire, for example. We know that person that is a lot closer to when Muhammad was living, the evidence for that. But what Muhammad said, what his teachings were, what he was preaching, those were a lot of stories and legends that were attributed to him much later. Just like Jesus. Jesus, for example, we know that there was a guy that was crucified. Like that's the most likely explanation of what happened. We have earlier evidence for that, but a lot of the things attributed to him in the Bible were things that came a lot later.
Now that's amazing. Look, I've got this book here. Can you see it? Sorry, wrong way around. Islam. Okay, it's like a beginner's guide to Islam, but it's written by a cleric, Islamic scholar. And I've read this book, and there's nothing, I mean, obviously what Armin is saying, there's nothing in here about any of that. They don't even mention the the historicity and the way the text was created and the evidence that they've got and everything. There's nothing of that in here whatsoever. So it's really good to hear this.
We have 5
Do you see that?
from the Ottoman is Quran written, and we still have them in different museums. One of them in Turkey. It's been written about 20 years or more or less than that after Muhammad is
The
dead.
Quran.
The way that,
The Quran.
yeah,
The Quran. Yeah, I know. The Quran mentions Muhammad 4 times by name. Okay, it mentions Rasulullah many times, but it mentions Muhammad by name only 4 times. Okay, 3 of those 4 times, the word is used in a way that it could be anybody. It doesn't need to be the last prophet of God. The word Muhammad, the way that academics understand what it means right now, is the one who is praised. So the new way of understanding what this Muhammad means was an adjective that was attributed to Jesus, not Muhammad. So only one of the 4 mentions of Muhammad in the Quran is clearly to the last prophet, to the Khatam al-Anbiya, which is Muhammad. The other 3, and also that one verse that is mentioning Muhammad that way. So the Quran itself was, unlike what Islam teaches, is not a revelation that it came all at once or it pre-existed Muhammad in heaven on a golden temple or something like that. It's an organic thing that was being developed. Certain parts of it was being developed even before Muhammad was born, and it continued evolving during when they say Muhammad lived, and it continued.
Wow. How many people know this? I certainly didn't know it. Obviously, I haven't done the research because, as I said, I'm not that interested in Islam. But now that he's saying it, and I will definitely verify what he's saying. But if it's true, it would certainly be amazing. He's saying that parts of the Quran were written actually before Muhammad was born. That is, I would have thought that to a lot of Muslims that would be earth-shattering.
Continued evolving many years after Muhammad died, and we could see the evolution. So if you are saying that we have Quranic texts that dates close to the time of Muhammad, yeah, I agree with that, but that doesn't prove that Muhammad that you believe in existed. It just proves that these texts were being evolving by society at that time, and we could actually see the progress of how these texts was evolving and what was effective, what was being, what ideas were be coming in and out. Like, we actually could see the progress. So actually, if you look at the history of the Quran and how it was evolved, actually completely dismisses it as a revelation that Muhammad got from Allah. Even if you go, for example, into the Dome of the Rock in Qubbatul Sakhra in Jerusalem, you can see Quranic verses within inside the dome that differs from what you have in the Quran that you have in your hand today. So we could actually see the evolution, which completely dismisses the entire narrative of Islamic belief.
I'm sorry, but I have to tell you that everything you said about the origin of the Quran, you cannot back it up. You don't have any document about that. You don't have any evidence.
Oh, we do.
I studied the Arabic.
No,
let me explain. You said that the Quran was even start to exist before the birth of Muhammad. I don't know what is the evidence for that.
Oh, we have texts. We have many texts. We could see, yeah. We have pre-Islamic texts that is an earlier version of what the Quran eventually ended up being.
Now, obviously, we see this with Christians as well, that they come onto the counter-apologetics arena and they make a claim, and then somebody who knows more, an atheist who's done the research, contradicts them. And then they say, no, you're not right, go and do your research. And then whoever, Matt, will say, well, no, you're wrong, etc. And now I'm in a position where I'm going to have to go and do the research too, because we've got 2 claims here and I don't know which one is true. So I'm going to have to go and do some research, and maybe you guys as well.
Give me one example.
The Talmud, for example, there are certain parts of the Quran that is clearly copied from the Talmud. There are certain poetry within Arabia that, like, we could see traces of earlier Islamic, Quranic text that was, got into that point. We could even see certain poetry. So, for example, the surah which says "Iqra bi'ismika allazi khalaq," that surah, you could see the exact copy of that story in Christian mythology that with so much distance from Islamic that is not even, that shows that they're not even copies of each other, that there was a third place that they both were copied from. So there's tons of examples. There's actually a lot of academic work that is being done on this, on the early history of Islam, that, so if you want to actually research this, I suggest not looking only at Islamic sources. Look at the new information that is coming up from academic sources that is not Islamic sources about this.
Well, this is exactly the same with Christianity. You've got Christians coming on claiming, for example, that we know who wrote the four Gospels, and all they're doing is reading fundamentalist Christian websites. They're not doing the proper research. Now, I don't know if what he's saying is true, because I would need to go out and do extra research now that he's brought this up, because this is all new to me if it happens to be the case, because Muslims have always told me that the Koran came down as one big divine revelation, and Mohammed literally wrote the whole lot down. And what he's saying is absolutely contradicting that. It's turning Islam on its head, really.
Topic, because it's really mind-boggling. This is a new area of studies, and every year the information that is coming out is completely revolutionizing this early Islamic history, the field of early Islamic history.
Ahmad, I want to hear your response to that, and then I want to ask you a question after that. Okay?
Yeah. Okay. We have three kind of text that we have in our hand today from this era. We have the old Arabic poem, we have the Quran, we have what the Muslims call it Hadith. The Hadith is the word of Muhammad in different occasions teaching his follower. He did not claim that this is the word of God. He claimed this is his word. And if we compare those three texts, they are totally different. They are written by different writers. You can put them together, all these three. So you see the Quran, the music in the Quran, and the way the Quran been written, and the way the Quran can be recited is totally different than the words of Muhammad. The old Arab poem, which was a very central in their life, is totally different in its structure, in its rhythm, and in everything.
Nothing.
There is no similarity between the three.
Ahmad, nothing you're saying negates anything I said. You're making a completely entire different point. Everything I said. Have you not seen in all your research? Have you not seen Quranic manuscripts that are different from the Quran that Muslims are reading today? Have you come across that or not?
No, not at all. Even the Iranian who are
so you are complete,
which I don't think. Even the Iranian who are Shia or the Shia, they still have the same Quran that I am as a Muslim Sunni read.
No. Even today, okay. So first of all, we can, if you go look at what the scholars are showing us, we can see different manuscripts throughout Islamic history. The Quran that you have today is not the same Quran that they had earlier. We have found manuscripts of the Quran that differs from the Quran that you're reading today. And even today, Ahmad, I'm sorry to tell you this. This might blow your mind. Even today, there are different Qurans in circulation with major changes, major differences between them. Right now,
if somebody come and write another book and he call it Quran, that's a different story.
No.
The Quran the history, the way the Muslim transport or take the Quran from one generation to another generation, and the way they took the Hadith, which here the
we're not talking about the Hadith. I understand the difference between tafsir and Hadith and the Sirah, and I know these things. I know the difference between these things. Okay, but we're talking about the Quran. Do you know that even today there are different versions of the Quran that Muslims read? Like if I go in Egypt and North Africa and take a Quran from there, and then I go to Saudi Arabia and take a Quran from there, and then compare them, do you know that there are differences between the verses? Are you aware of this?
No, but this is not a difference in the verses. It is a difference in in the way they read it, which is the
No,
what we call it.
that is wrong.
There is like warsh.
No, you're wrong.
Different tilawa.
No. If the warsh and hafs, if you look at the differences, they're actually different meanings. They're different. It's not just the way you read it. There are entire letters that are different. That changes the meaning. There are commands by God, commandments by God that are completely different if you based on whether you're reading the Hafs Quran or the Warsh Quran.
Well, I have an app on my phone. I can listen to all this reading, and I don't.
Okay,
I don't know. I mean, what you're talking to me is totally is not true, and I know about that. I know about the.
Do you know the difference? Do you know the difference between Malik and Malik? Do you know? Like we could start with the first chapter. Like it goes every chapter.
Yeah,
like you could. Yeah. Okay. What's?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. What's the difference between Malik and Malik?
Between Malik and Malik, and I know this is a difference in the recitation of the Quran, but this does not create a big difference between different copies of the Quran, and you know that.
Okay, but I know that. But once you go to Baqarah, once you get to Surah Baqarah, the commands of God even change. The commandments of God even change. But let's do with this first chapter, the subtle one, so you understand that the meaning of Malik and Malik is different. Do you agree with that?
Malik and the Malik, yes, Malik is different than Malik. Yes.
Okay, so.
Could we get an explanation for the audience?
Okay, so we have right now in circulation, we have Qurans that says Maliki Yawmiddin, and we have certain Qurans in circulation that says Maliki Yawmiddin, right? Which one of them means like you're a king of the final day, and the other one says like you're the owner of the final day. And we have, so Muslims for a long time claim that the Quran has never changed and it always been the same word. And this is, they introduce this as a miracle, that not a single dot, not a single vowel, nothing in the Quran has changed from the time of the revelation of Muhammad. And this was introduced to us as one of the main proofs that Islam is real, because Allah has managed to keep the Quran completely consistent and the same. But that is being invalidated, because even today, if you go find different Qurans, even today that Muslims are using in entire countries, you can see that there are differences between them, which is completely disproves that miracle. So what Ahmad is trying to suggest is that the Quran was not changing throughout history. What I say that if you go look back, you can see, for example, if you look at the Sana manuscript, you could see actually in real time, like based by X-ray of different layers of the script, that you could see that there were an earlier text and then the above text that was completely changed. So you could actually, through archaeology and different methods, you could see the evolution of the Quran through history. This was not something that did not change. And even today we have different Qurans. That's the whole point of this argument.
Okay, there we are. So very interesting exchange there. And if what Armin is saying is true, then all of a sudden Muhammad looks a lot more like Jesus, in the sense that it's been argued with Jesus, he's an amalgamation of oral tradition on different characters, and they brought together all these characters to make Jesus. And if what he's saying is true, it could be that Muhammad is exactly the same kind of creation. Something, of course, which Muslims will resist and deny and obviously count as heresy. So I'm really glad that Armin sat on and that a Muslim called in and they had that discussion, because it's prompted me to go and do some research and indeed explore Armin's channel. Well, that's about it. I look forward to making another video on Islam very soon. I'll be doing more of them. Bye for now.